Even though I've thought about it for a while now, remember these are just my opinions on this subject. I spent a lot of time recently thinking about pre-college education. So basically starting from kindergarten all the way up through high school. I work as a private tutor and I work mostly with high school students, although I do have a couple middle school students and an elementary school student that I work with as well. So even though I'm pretty far removed from that part of education and I don't have a kid in that kind of education, it's still something that I'm dealing with on a nearly daily basis. And don't get me wrong, I do think that there is value in learning the material that you are taught in high school. Earlier, I mean, it builds to high school, but specifically I'm thinking about high school. It is valuable, the stuff you learn about history and English and math and science and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think that that is the goal of your high school education, is not to know all of this stuff once you are done. I do realize that my opinions are coming from someone who, as soon as they were in school, knew that they were going to go to college and probably go to grad school, so that mindset has kind of tinted the way I view things, even though I know that that pathway isn't what everybody's going to take. More important than learning the material itself, in my opinion, is the fact that you are learning how to learn that kind of material. I will explain. Across all the different subjects, they present information to you in slightly different ways, whether it's through the lens of English and literature, or history, or math, or science. They're all presenting you with a different form of information that you need to somehow process and come up with some kind of analysis, whether it's an answer or an essay or an opinion or what have you. Going through these motions helps you not only learn how to learn, but it starts wiring your brain in a certain way that will allow you to use those pathways for something else later in the future. This is why one of my least favorite questions to hear, and thankfully I don't hear it too much with the students that I tutor, but when I worked as a substitute teacher and an in-class tutor, I would hear it a lot more often. When are we ever going to use this? And in my opinion, that's not a great question, at least for what I see the value of high school, which is not specifically the material itself, but learning how to process that information is going to help you process maybe unrelated information in the future. But going through and learning how to learn this material and learning how to work in the process of math and learning how to work with biology or chemistry or physics or earth science, or learning things in the narrative styles of English, or you can even see history as a kind of narrative told from different perspectives. All of those different types of information are similar to the types of information that you're presented once you're outside of school. I think there's a lot of progress being made in making subjects more interesting to people. You see this a lot with YouTube, whether it's math or science or history or English. There's a lot of work being done to try and get people interested or excited, or seeing that, oh yeah, math really isn't this like arbitrary, terribly boring thing. It's practical and has its uses, and I need to know how to process this information. Although there's lots of learning to be done in high school, and I don't want to discredit the amount that you can learn, and I feel like I did learn a lot of material in high school, but I really feel that college, if that's the path you take, is really where you're going to learn the material. And yes, there's general education classes, which I think are very important. I think, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, that you should try and learn broadly, again, because it helps you with all kinds of different information and making your own opinions and that kind of thing. But more specifically, you're going to start going into things that you're actually going to use, which is what you're going to remember. And it really saddens me to see art and music and different ways of processing, whether it's visual or auditory or motor information, from the pre-high school. There's still usually options in high school, but in middle school and in elementary school they're often being cut because of the budget, and I think that those are really important. There's two things that I really like doing are making things on the art side and making music. But if I had to pick one class to put back into high schools, it would be home ec. People should know how to sew and how to cook and how to do their laundry and how to load a dishwasher. All these things people assume are now being taught in the home, or they're not being taught at school, and they'll say like, oh yeah, well that should be learned at home, we shouldn't take time to learn that in the classroom. But having my college experience now behind me, I can tell you that people aren't learning how to do those things in the home. Anyway, this may not be the most linear of videos, but it was some ideas I had floating around in my head and I wanted to get out there. I hope you have a nice weekend, and I will see you tomorrow.